Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I think people are perverts. I've maintained that. That's the foundation of my career.
Welcome to House of Fincher, the podcast on the Nerd Party Network, where we go through all of David Fincher's movies in chronological release order in anticipation of his new Netflix release, Mank, which is all about as far as I know, the production of Citizen Kane. So I'm very much looking forward to this. And to join me on this wonderful journey, we've got my two co-hosts, Tristan Riddell and John Mills, also big fans of David Fincher.
Yes.
How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Brandon. I am looking forward to this discussion very much.
Excellent. Yes, right on. And I see that you are ready for tonight's discussion because your head is shaved, so we have no lice concerns.
That you know what? I can tell you if I can share a little bit of family history. Many years in the past, there was a lice outbreak at the school, and the two older girls got it. The youngest girl was not born yet, and so the two girls got it. And I said to everybody in the house that my hairstyle was the winning hairstyle, and if anybody wanted to join me, it was a surefire way to get rid of those little buggers. Nobody took me up on it, sadly.
Nobody did, yes.
No.
Also joining us is Tristan Riddell. How are you doing, Tristan?
I'm doing okay, and while, we're all huge Fincher fans, I feel like this movie that we're going to talk about today, this is a real test. This is a really good test to see how big of a Fincher fan you are, because even the man himself does not like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
What does Fincher know?
Yes, right.
I think it's interesting. We're coming to this, and we all love this movie quite a bit, right?
I don't hate it. I do not.
Yeah, I was going to say I think that's that might be an overstatement for
Yes.
John specifically.
Yeah, you know what? Because we're going to be talking about the two different versions, I can tell you I have a very different reaction to one version over the other.
Yes.
So the one I saw in the theaters is not the same as the different version that was released in 2003.
Oh, so you actually saw this in the theater? You
Wow.
saw this in 1992 in the theater?
Told you I'm the old man of the group. I did. I saw it with my brother.
Awesome.
And I mean, we were big Alien. Who wasn't a big Alien fan? And like Alien 3, the tagline was something like "It's in the most terrifying place of all." And we had like a trailer, and everybody in my circle of friends was convinced, because we didn't have all the build up and the spoilers and all of that stuff back then. We were like, most terrifying place of all. It's going to be on Earth. It's got to be on Earth. There's no other place it could be. It's got to be Earth. That's the most terrifying place possible. And so there were a lot of people that were taken a little off guard that it wasn't on Earth. So,
Well, one of the taglines actually was, "On Earth, everyone can hear you scream."
oh, okay.
Really?
So misleading advertising then.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, it legit was, because they were trying to make a play on "In Space, No One Can Hear You Scream," and this was just the tip of the iceberg that was to be production problems when it comes to Alien 3.
Yeah, I guess that must have been like really early on or something. Like the
Super
first
early on.
tease.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting history with this film for sure. For sure.
See, I'm not too much involved in like reading up on the behind the scenes stuff. Like when I go through my Blu-ray releases and my DVD releases, I watch all the bonus features, but I usually don't watch them more than once, and I just kind of watch them for entertainment's sake. And there's not a whole lot of movies that I watch where I'm like totally into the making of. Like I think probably the most fascinating making of documentary stuff I ever saw was for the original Fantasia, right? And when they were talking about the production of that, and I thought that was really really fascinating. But most of the time when it comes to behind the scenes stuff, I'm just like, I give it just kind of a cursive glance, and I just watch them for the sake of watching them, but don't really study making of films. What do you guys feel about that? How do you guys approach your bonus features and movies? Because I know there's some on this set.
I gobble up as much as I can. Like, I absolutely, specifically if it's something that I am in love with, or I feel like, was particularly well made. Like, John, you and I just got done talking about The Revenant. And so, we talked a lot about how it was shot, because it was shot using 100% natural light or firelight or sunlight, things like that, which is a Herculean task to do out in nature, and especially at nighttime. And only because of certain advancement in camera technology were they able to do it in, today, or at least a couple of years ago. And so, but the thing is that, like, if The Revenant was a crappy movie, I might not want to, learn that much about it. But, like, with me going to film school and, and making films of my own and videos of my own, and it's my current professional video making, not filmmaking, is my current profession. I'm constantly trying to figure out, like, oh, what kind of camera did they use, or like, why did they choose that camera? Like, what kind of CGI did they use, and were they able to expand on this method that they, didn't on a previous method? And with Alien 3 specifically, there was a friend of mine who went to a screenwriting class, and they studied Alien 3 at length. Like, it was a huge chapter of in their book. And so what they gave them all of the scripts to read, and there are lots of scripts of Alien 3. I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 8. I may be exaggerating, but they were all different. Like, they're all wildly different. Yeah. And so Alien 3 has become a study of of horrible filmmaking from a production standpoint, like from a studio standpoint, from a writing standpoint, not so much the finished product. Like, like, even though a lot of people would argue, like, oh no, it totally is an absolute failure from a movie standpoint, but just from a behind the scenes standpoint, so much went wrong so quickly and so famously that it has been and is continuing to be studied by people in school.
Yeah, it's interesting because I really am sort of catch as catch can. Like, obviously with like Star Wars, I'm hip deep in that stuff. Like, I read everything I can lay my hands on, and I watch stuff because I just have always, for some reason, I've always just approached that specific series as like George Lucas's personal film class for everybody. Like, he's always so, like, even during the prequels, he was so open about the process that you got to see everything. And I think that, he winds up being the doorway in. But, to your point, Tristan, if I don't really like a movie, I'm not going to really pay too much attention. Or if they inundate you with too much material at first, I tune out. Like, the Star Wars stuff is built up over time, right? There's always been the making of stuff and the special effects stuff. But it's sort of like grown as the franchise has gotten older. Whereas I never watched all of the behind the scenes stuff for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because on that, complete trilogy set or whatever, it was like featuring 4,000 hours of bonus features. And I was like, oh, that's
so much.
Yeah,
it's so much.
I don't need all of that, guys. It's cool, right? Like, pick and choose what I'm going to get here. I don't need to see, the third matte painter's assistant, what they had for lunch that day. It's cool. Alien 3, I actually know a fair amount about the process, but not as much as other fans might. And I think that's specifically because rehabilitating my attitude toward the film has been a very long process since 1992. I, like many other people, saw it in the theater. I did not react poorly to it at first. And I've never had like a bad opinion of Alien 3. I've always just said, it just wasn't what it could have been, right? The catch-all line that everybody fell back on and used was, it's a good movie, it's just not a good Alien sequel. And I think that's sort of the part that I'm, with this most recent viewing, where I now disagree with that line. I do think it's a good Alien sequel, and I do think it's actually a good way to bring closure to the trilogy in a lot of ways. But I can also acknowledge, especially when comparing the two versions, like, it's so, studio meddling is always so fascinating. And I really think it's coming out of Aliens. Like, I know I keep referencing Star Wars, but compare, you come out of Star Wars, which is this genre-shattering, world-breaking, record-holding smash surprise success, and they still 3 years later they're like, all right, let's come out, and they came out with a sequel that was amazing and wonderful and visionary and all of that stuff, whereas Aliens comes out and it seems to paralyze Fox, where they're like, oh, what do we do now? How are we supposed to do this? How do you make a sequel to such a good movie? And it's like, well, you can. It's been done before. So.
Yeah. See, one of the things that I've always liked about Alien 3 is that they went back to one alien. You know, like, I personally prefer the first Alien movie over the second, and that boils down to personal preference. And I've always told people, you know, there's always debates which one's better. And I think it boils down to, do you like action movies better or do you like horror movies better? And that's what you're going to gravitate towards with the first two Alien films. And I personally prefer horror films more than I prefer action films. I think both of them are 5-star films, but if I'm going to pick one, I'm definitely going to pick the first Alien. And so I like that they came back to just one alien, because that's what I like about the franchise. And I like this idea of they're trapped with the alien, but in a completely different way. Right. And, you know, Ripley has been in these situations where she's trying to explain to people about what's going on. And, you know, in the first one, they all kind of came to it together. They all came to the realization together of what was going on. And in the second one, they were all going out there, not because they really believed her, but because they lost contact. And so they were experiencing it there again. And so here we got a third situation where people aren't believing her. And to me, it's with it summing up with her death at the end, with the queen being in her, is a cap on the story that they were trying to tell that makes the most sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Brandon, when was the first time you saw it?
I can't remember exactly, but I was pretty young. So I had mentioned in our last episode there that I was always surprised that Ripley had hair in the first two. So I'm pretty sure I saw Alien 3 first, out of all the movies. But I would have been pretty young, because this would have been on VHS in my early teens, like 13 or 14 or something like that. So 1995 is probably when I saw this movie first.
Mm-hmm.
I was 6 when in 1992, so I did not see it in the theater, but I did that just to get a rise out of John.
Every excuse in the book. Come on.
I'm like you, Brendan. I don't remember exactly when I saw it, but I know where I was. I was back home. I was in my childhood home, and I can't remember how old I was, but I remember being pretty young, and I think it was in the summertime, and AMC was running a trilogy marathon. Like, they were running them back to back. And I remember I was off, I was doing something around the house all day, but the TV was on, and I kept walking by throughout the entire day. And then we get to, you know, like when Alien was playing, I would go in and out. When Aliens was playing, I was going in and out. But I remember when Alien 3 came on, I sat and watched it a little bit longer each time. And I think the reason why is because it grabbed my attention because it was so different from the previous two. It wasn't like, you know, Brandon, like you talked about, like, it's a lot of people argue which one is better, 1 or 2. And like you said, which one do you like more, horror or action? And so if I want horror, watch the first one. If I want action, I want the second one. If I want to think about killing myself, I watch the third one. You know, we all have our niches that we go towards. And I think that's what really grabbed me, it was so different. Everybody had shaved heads. It was darker. It was monochromatic. It was, you know, like it was inmates. They were mixing in religion. And it just, you had a much more sardonic Ripley. And I just love the tone of it. I think that's the thing, is that the tone of it was so unique and so separate from the rest of the franchise that it was trying to do something different. And I really appreciated it, even as a kid.
You know, you mentioned about the you know, the sort of suicidal arc that exists in it. But what I've always enjoyed about it was with Charles S. Dutton's character, with the fact that she gives up. You know, and like, it's very obviously, you know, works as a metaphor for having a terminal illness sort of thing, and saying, you know, I give up. I just want to die. And I've always enjoyed the fact that Charles S. Dutton's character says, fine, but you fight until the last possible moment. And I've found that so interesting because Fincher tends, I think, to get a rap for the type of philosophy that he has in his movies. But I think he's actually a much slyer and more subtle filmmaker than people give him credit for, because really keying on that part this time, I'm going to be looking at his coming movies, especially as we, go forward to like The Game. I think he has a much more, lack of a better word, positive counterbalance to some of the darker stuff that he explores. And I think in Alien 3, there is that the really interesting thing is all of these people have a reason to give up, but they don't. And I'm not just talking about when the alien shows up. These are all people who have been condemned, cast aside, thrown away, and they found a reason and a way to keep going and to have hope, basically. And I think that's a really interesting thread. I think it's much better played out in the 2003 version.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes with, this is one of those times we're watching the 2003 version for the very first time for this. It blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, this was the first time I saw it, and it blew my mind. And I was, people talk about how much better it is. I'm like, yeah, how much better could it be? And I watch it. It's way better.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much better and how much more fleshed out the characters are. Why would you cut this stuff? It's baffling to me. It doesn't make any sense.
It was Fox was, oh man, they shot themselves in the foot from the word go. Like what happened was that they set a shooting schedule and a release date before they even had a script finished, and so I'll just try to condense the story down real quick. But they're just like, okay, it needs to be released at this time, at this date for this slate, because Fox needed a hit. They absolutely needed to make money by that date because they had miss after miss, and they're just like, okay, let's pull out the Alien franchise. We've got that one in our back pocket. We need some cash. Let's make this happen. And so they hire a director. I think it was Vincent Ward, who went on to direct Die Hard 2 when he left production on this. I think he was on it for like 2 days. Not 2 days, but like a couple of weeks. He started writing his own version. And then once that was done, he was directing for 2 weeks. And then he just clashed with Fox so hard. He's like, F this, I'm out. I'm going to go direct Die Hard 2. And it went through. Oh, what?
Oh, I was just going to say, and then he lost that to Rennie Harlin. So.
Oh, wait. No, I'm screwing up the names. Rennie Harland is the one who went on to.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Rennie Harland was on this picture.
Oh, that
was on Alien 3. And then he went on to direct Die Hard 2. Thank you very much. But Vincent Ward was another director who was attached to it and another writer, and or maybe I'm confusing Ward with directing and writing, because that's the thing, I can't keep it straight. There was 8 different writers and 2 or 3 directors, including Fincher. And so please, people who know more than I do, please forgive me for screwing up the names. But it's just we had a director walk off, and then nobody liked the script, and Sigourney Weaver didn't like the script. And initially they were just like, okay, well, if Sigourney Weaver's not going to be involved, then we'll write her out and it'll just be focused on Hicks and Newt. And then they'll be on a space station. And then it'll be some genetic engineering where the company is trying to blend alien DNA with human DNA, and then Hicks and Newt get away, but they shoot the comatose Ripley off into an escape pod, and she winds up on a planet for the 4th movie. And then they're like, okay, well, Sigourney Weaver's back in, so let's get rid of Hicks and Newt and just focus on Ripley. We'll just focus on that 4th film, make that the 3rd film. She's going to land on a wooden planet with a bunch of monks, and so they're all religious. And then it goes through another rounds of it gets through another bunch of writers, and then Sigourney Weaver reads the script and she's like, I hate this. you don't know how to write for Ripley. She's like, okay, let's get some of the original writers back, and then they bring on Fincher, and then they're just like, okay, well, we've already built a 5th of the sets, and Fincher's like, yeah, but this script sucks. and they're like, well, tough crap, you got to use these sets. and then it was just back and forth constantly like that. And they're like, okay, well, like you're gonna have $45 million and you got to do this in 70 days. And Fincher's like, okay, I just need a little bit more and you can give me 93 days. And so they were like they had so many problems with the writers and with the director leaving. And I think they basically swapped out their crew every couple of weeks. And the crews were working something like 18, 16-hour days for 6 days a week, trying to keep up with the production schedule, and they were still falling behind. And there was a joke that there were more producers on set than actors, because all these producers were coming in from Fox trying to make sure that Fincher wasn't wasting time or spending too much money. And Fincher was just clashing creatively with them constantly. And Fincher himself said, he's like, if I was older, I would have been able to articulate and communicate better about what I wanted to do, but I had no credit to push my viewpoint, and so I didn't have any confidence to tell them that I know what I'm talking about. And then so they finished filming. He edited the film for a year. And then he showed it to Fox, and Fox freaked out. They absolutely freaked out, and they said, this is horrible. This is a crappy movie. We got to do reshoots. And that was the straw on the camel's back, where Fincher just said, screw this. I'm out. You can go do the reshoots. You can go edit a theatrical edition. I'm out. And so that's what happened is it ballooned from 45 million to 65 million. And they did a bunch of reshoots, trimmed it down to under 2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they could put it in the theater, more often. Like they could put it in the theater more times in a day than they can with a 2.5 hour movie. And so the assembly cut, John, that you saw if you look at the quadrilogy set that came out in 2003, every single film has a director's cut except for Fincher's.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they went to him and they said, hey, would you like to make a director's cut? And he says, the only way I can make a director's cut if I burn the negatives and start it from scratch.
Wow.
And so he like there was a producer on the film with him, and Fincher gave the producer his blessing. He's like, listen, you were there with me. If you want to do a cut, you do the cut. And producer's like, okay. So they went back to the original cut that Fincher made, that he presented back in 91 and to Fox, or 90. And he took his notes and he took the original cut, and then they try to put stuff together. And that's why it's called an assembly cut, because it's based heavily off of Fincher's assembly cut that he's sent to the Fox executive. So it's not really a director's cut because there's certain things that are missing. But there you go. That's the quick and dirty, that's as fast as I could do it, story of Alien 3 behind the scenes.
Okay, two things on that. I think it's crazy that the first production window that they gave him was 73 days, because Raiders of the Lost Ark was shot in like 81 days, and Spielberg did that because he wanted to show Lucas he could direct something as fast as Lucas did. Like it was like a challenge for Spielberg, where he was like, okay, I'm going to, and you look at Raiders of the Lost Ark and you think that one was lightning speed to shoot in 81 days. And they're going to give you the sequel to Aliens and you got to do it in 73. Yeah. Why, do you know why they changed from an ox to a dog?
I don't know, but I think that the ox is weird myself.
That's the thing. That's why, is because when they filmed it and when they showed it to people, they felt it was weird. They're just like, why is an ox here? Why are they using oxen? Like, what's going, like, it's kind of like, why are there horses in Firefly? Like, why are there horses in space? Like, it was that kind of feeling where it put people off. I like the ox a heck of a lot better than the dog myself.
I do too. And I can tell you, rewatching, I have a dog now. I didn't have a dog at the time, and I always felt bad for the dog. But now that I have a dog, watching a dog suffer like that and imagining my dog going through it is emotionally easier for me to watch the ox scene
because the
than
ox is
dog
already
scene.
dead.
Yeah,
I can understand that.
Yeah. Ox is already dead. I don't have to hear the dog whining or the sadness, and it's like there are certain things I just can't imagine, and I don't want to ever be in the position to imagine. And another Fox property, Alien versus Predator: Requiem. The alien goes into a maternity ward, and I turned it off. I was like, can't do it. I'm out.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. Yeah.
Well, there's lots of reasons why you turn off Alien versus Predator: Requiem.
Well, besides the fact that it's just a bad movie, yes. But that was the
Right.
straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay, so I'm glad you did bring this up because I personally prefer the dog, and to me, the dog makes more sense in this. And to me, the dog adds a lot of depth to the alien mythology, believe it or not. And so what I see when I see the dog is when the alien is walking around in this movie, he's walking around like on all fours.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I put in my head when I watch this is that the xenomorph is not a xenomorph coming out every single time. It's a combination of the xenomorph DNA and the animal or the human or whatever that it's blending in.
Yeah.
So in Alien and Aliens, they're almost human-like because they're all coming out of people. And in this one, it's running around on all fours like that with a long tail like that as well because it's dog DNA that's been mixed with it.
Mm-hmm.
And coming out of an ox, like an ox doesn't move that way and it doesn't kind of look that way to me. So the oxen is really one of the only things that I really don't like about the assembly cut.
To be fair, the xenomorph that comes out of a human has a super long tail too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, you're true. Yes.
And moves just as fast.
But they also stand up more vertically, right?
They definitely do. No, you are right. Like it does carry on certain characteristics, but I mean it's all personal preference. But I mean the ox walks on all fours too,
Right. And I think also it coming from the ox, its later gigantic size makes more sense than if it came from a dog because it comes out of the dog. And there were people that rejected the idea. They even called it a dog burster. In the materials, and yes, I'm completely on board with you, Brandon. Like it takes on the characteristics of its host, makes perfect sense, and is later supported by Alien versus Predator when the alien has the little fang things, but like with it coming from the ox, the larger size makes sense, because it has a larger host creature that it's born from. And so that sort of balances out. And I think also, that was always one of the odd things was in the theatrical cut, it's born from a dog and then it seems to get larger than previous Aliens. And I think also some of the effects challenges they had make it look a little weird. But there's also the fact that Cameron specifically pared down the alien costume in Aliens so that they could have more of a range of movement and be more, they were able to leap around more. So they changed the costume for that. So I think there's, because there's definitely a shift from the first Alien and the alien troopers in Aliens.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's another interesting aspect of the production of this film that I wanted to talk to you guys about that people seem to really have a problem with that I never did, and it's a problem with the story. I personally couldn't care less about Hicks or Newt not being in this film, and that seems to be a real sticking point for a lot of people. And for me, the reason why it's never bothered me is that this Alien trilogy, and even Alien Resurrection to somewhat, like this is all about Ripley. Everything is about Ripley. So these two side characters I never really cared about, and I never missed them in this film. Where's your guys' stance on that? Should they have had Hicks and Newt, or are you upset that they're not in this film, Tristan?
Oh man, it's hard to answer this question because we've had Alien 3 since 92. Because I genuinely love this film. I really like this film.
I'm still complaining about the CGI and the George Lucas special editions here. Okay, we can talk about this stuff all we want.
I was gonna say, if you want to evoke an eye roll from John, you just did it. But
You did.
Moving on from that example, it's hard because if you told me before the movie was released, like, oh, they're gonna kill Hicks and Newt right away, we're not even gonna see them, I'd be like, what a missed opportunity. That's crazy. And then now that I've seen the movie and I like it, I'm like, oh well, I still see it as a missed opportunity, but it's not something that I'm losing sleep over. But when we heard that there was a possibility that we were going to get a movie that kind of disregarded 3 and 4 and everything like that from Neil Blomkamp, and going to kind of revive Hicks, and show an older Sigourney Weaver, that I was all on board for that. Even though I love Alien 3, I was all on board for an alternate storytelling of it.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a huge sticking point for a lot of people, and I do think it was a missed opportunity. I think it would have connected with audiences more. And even Fincher himself, not speaking specifically to Hicks and Newt, but speaking to the point where he's like, listen, we made a film that went into some dangerous places. We made some really effed up decisions about what we wanted to do with the human experience and these characters. And that might not have been the best decision for a global franchise film. And I think if they went the Newt Hicks route, they probably would have made a much more traditional franchise film like they did with Aliens. And so it probably would have made more money, would have connected with audiences better, but it wouldn't have been as unique. So that's my take on it.
I think that artistically, it makes perfect sense, and it fits with the theme of the film for them to die. Ripley is, she has to have lost everything and be in a corner where she's ready to give up in order for Charles S. Dutton's speech later to make any sense. You keep fighting. You promise me you keep fighting until you can't fight anymore. So in the context of this story, it works fine. I understand, though, having been there for it and experiencing from different friends the rage about the fact that not that they just weren't in the movie, but that they were brutally dispatched basically in the opening credits. People felt that was a cheat. Some people were able to rationalize from a production standpoint, saying, well, the actress who played, how are you going to explain Newt aging in cryosleep? You can, but it wouldn't have made too much sense. But killing Hicks seemed to really hurt a lot of people because I loved Hicks. Hicks was a great character. Michael Biehn was awesome. And I loved Newt too. And Aliens was all about, this giving Ripley what she lost by what she went through in the first film. She lost her daughter. She lost her friends. She lost any sense of connection. And then Aliens is, the new mother versus the old mother. And then family, being different and redefined. The family is together again at the end and all of that stuff. And then to have that taken away in the blink of an eye, I can understand why people would react poorly to that.
Right, but adding to what you say there, we didn't know Ripley had a daughter until the extended director's cut of Aliens.
Which had come out before Alien 3.
It did, yeah. It came out right away. I'm pretty sure that Aliens was the first director's cut.
Yes.
Like ever?
I don't think ever. No.
I don't think ever, no.
Okay.
Ridley Scott is pretty much known as the father of the director's cut.
Okay.
Well, hold on, though, because the director's cut of Blade Runner didn't come out till the 90s.
Yeah, I think it was
and
later.
The extended cut / director's cut of Aliens came out before that.
It came out right away. Like it was on one of the first Laserdisc releases.
Yeah, and people picked up on it very quickly. But this is that's all quibbling anyway.
Right.
But she still, even if I'm sure there's a line of dialogue about her daughter or something in the theatrical version.
I don't think that there is. I think that was one of the interesting things about the director's cut. I could be wrong.
I could be too. I could be too.
Yeah.
But the point is, though, Ripley has nothing at the end of Alien, and then when she comes back and at the end of Aliens, she's got a family. She's got a future. She's got hope and love in her life. And I think people might have even just reacted better to, okay, Newt dies at first, and then Hicks is with her, but then he's the first one killed by the alien. I think that would have probably played better with people.
Alan Dean Foster, the author and a man who does a lot of novelizations, he did the novelization to Alien 3, and when he got the final shooting script, what eventually became the shooting script, because they actually were, side note, as they were shooting the film, they were rewriting pages, and so they would shoot scenes, and then the next day the actors were told, oh yeah, we're not using that scene, that's been cut out. Like, that's the kind of production crap that they went through. Anyway, when Alan Dean Foster got the semi-finished script, he was so blown away and so angry that Newt and Hicks died that he refused to put Newt dying in the novelization, and just said that that she was locked in her cryotube and couldn't be tended to until later. And
wow.
The producers, the studio was just like, no, you have to do this. Like, we're telling you, we're paying you, you have to keep this in line with the movie. And he's like, fine, I'll put it in the movie, but I'm never doing another Alien novelization after this.
Wow.
Because he was so angry that they killed Newt.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know it's a sticking point for a lot of people, and it's something that I just never understood. I still don't. I don't know. I still don't. Like, yeah, they're fine, but I'm like, I don't know. Alien is Ripley. Alien is Ripley.
Yeah, but I think with Newt in specific, I think that there can be a very primal trigger sometimes when it's kids.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a parent, if you are on the, there's no card to pull on that one. But I'm notoriously finicky about kids in danger in movies. It's got to have Newt's in danger in Aliens. It works fine for me. I don't freak out about it. But there are other movies I watch where kids are in danger or harm is going to come to a kid, and I shut down. I get absolutely angry about it. So I think it's just everybody, the switch flips at a different spot for everyone.
Mm-hmm. To add insult to injury, Fincher filmed a graphic autopsy scene of Newt to the point where it was in the initial cut, and when they showed it to test audiences, they got sick to their stomach and left.
Wow.
And so they're just like, this is not being included. And so it didn't make it to the theatrical, and it didn't even make it to the assembly cut, and they could have put it in. And they were just like, they didn't. Oh my God, no. Yeah, why? Yeah. Why do that? I felt like they did a good job of the autopsy scene, but even when they opened the chest, I was like, too far. No. Like that one shot.
But you got to keep in mind too, this movie is coming out, like the 90s really became a time for people to test those boundaries of graphic violence and gore and stuff like that. That stuff started to come, like that sort of graphic autopsy scene that would have been in a not mainstream horror movie. You would have had to know what title to go get. Oh, okay, this is in Friday the 13th Part 9. Sure, yeah, I know what I'm going to see. Guts flying everywhere here. But when you've got a franchise where you're trying to appeal to, broader audiences. I mean, that's one of the reasons Tarantino was so shocking, was the violence was so, grindhouse level, but these were art house films. Like it totally took people off guard.
I have a question for you guys. Speaking of the autopsy scene is the point where, going back and watching, where I'm like, that's Fincher. There he is. Like the way that he shot the autopsy scene, the close-ups of the close-ups of the utensils, the blood flowing like water next to the utensils, next to the scalpel. The close-ups of Ripley's face, and just the emotional play back and forth between eyes and blood and chest and breathing. That's when I was just like, that's the Fincher we know. That's a glimpse of the director that he's going to be. Brandon when did you notice quote unquote Fincher when watching Alien 3?
The scene that really brought Fincher to me was when the guy dropped the lighter and we get that really slow motion shot of the thing dropping. I'm like, this is a very stylistic thing, and so this is to me what like one of the things that Fincher's bringing in. And I know that it's something very quick, but I want to know. I don't know if you were able to find it out or not. I want to know how fast they were filming that, like at what frame rate they were filming that, because that thing drops for quite a long time and it doesn't drop very far. So that's like a couple hundred frames a second, I'm sure, that they were filming that thing.
I'd have to. I mean, I can't remember. I need to go back and watch it. Yeah, I don't know. Like probably either 120, 240, something like that, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
I'll say for me, watching it this time, the part that jumped out to me for seeing where Fincher was still going to start growing was the actual funeral scene interspersed with the alien birth in both versions. I looked at that, especially just having watched a bunch of his music videos, and I said, that's music video Fincher right there.
Yeah.
If he were directing this now, I know this would have played a lot more patiently and a lot differently from this, but this is still we just watched his music videos, so you guys know what I'm saying. This is still that back and forth quick cut. He's still finding how to handle this sort of moment.
Didn't he use dissolves during that scene too?
No, they were just cuts.
No,
were they just cuts?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't.
There was
remember.
the one where we had the widescreen composition and we had the three faces. There was like the guy that was talking, who was the guy in charge of the facility. I'm sorry, listeners, I'm really bad with character names. And then they had Tywin Lannister on the one side, and Ripley in the middle. So
no, but you are right. There were some dissolves, but they weren't. They were within the context of the funeral scene itself, and I think that. But a lot of the cuts were jarring. And what was especially interesting to me, because Fincher is so disciplined with his camera use, what was and his editing, all of that stuff. What was really interesting was the fact that the camera movement around people in the funeral scene was disjointed compared to how the camera was moving and working within the birth scene of the alien. Like it was all of this stuff where I could see I could tell why he would say I'd have to burn the negative and start from the beginning, because you give today's David Fincher this material, I know that plays a lot differently.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this film is interesting because while you're talking about that kind of editing there, I had mentioned in our private chat about this, we were talking ahead of time, I'm like, the editing in this is really quick. There's like not a lot of really long takes in this film, and that's something that Fincher does do a lot later on, is a lot of long takes. So that's kind of also where I noticed maybe the music video, but that could also be a factor of the weird production history of this film is part of the reason why this editing is so... They're like, oh, we got to cut this down. We got to cut this down. We got to cut this down.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Possibly. So I also wanted to ask, because Tristan, you'd mentioned as well that you didn't seem to be too thrilled with the music in this film.
I didn't mention that.
I misunderstood then. So
I may have mentioned it. Because
okay, so maybe it was you then. So did you not like the music very much for this film?
It's not that I disliked it. I think on the whole it works okay, but there are certain cues that, especially in the assault scene, when they corner her in the junk scrap yard area,
the guitars.
Yeah, the music just got really weird in that moment.
That was weird in that moment.
I mean, that moment itself was, I don't know if you need to. There was already enough tension about the possibility of something like that. I don't know if that gets filmed by modern day. Well, no, okay, girl with the dragon tattoo. So okay, it fits, but I don't know. It seemed like a scene that didn't really further anything having to do with the tension of the situation Ripley was in, but was more of a let's give Charles Dutton's character a reason to be a savior figure in this moment.
I did not like that scene. For many reasons I didn't like that scene. Like what you said, the music's weird for that scene. the scene itself didn't further the plot, or it like you said, it just gave Dutton a chance to kind of show off. But it pissed me off because Ripley is a character who will accept help and will like she went into Aliens with an entire Marine crew with her. I mean, she needs help and she'll ask for it and she'll take it. But at the same time, I wanted to see if she got into that situation, if she was forced into that situation, I want to see her get out of it, not have somebody come and rescue her. And it's the whole thing. I could totally you could excise that and nothing would change. And if that's the case, then you should excise it, especially when you're dealing with sexual assault. Now, thankfully, it was attempted sexual assault. And John, I want to ask you a question. Did you recognize the person?
Of course I did. Bill Tench.
Bill Tench, that's right. Mindhunter, baby.
I'm glad that Bill got much better. His personality seems to have evened out when he joined the FBI's profiling crew.
But I'm gonna blow your mind, John, on this one here. I just watched Creepshow 2, and he's in Creepshow 2.
Well, I have to rewatch Creepshow 2 anyway, just to keep up with franchise fatigue. But
he's in Creepshow 2. He's in. Do you want me to tell you, or do you want to try and find him on your own? And we'll find out later.
I can find him on my own, because the thing is, once I learned to look for the regular actors that Fincher likes to keep working with, I know exactly who he is in Fight Club. And stuff like that. Like it's really, and the thing is, the actor's name.
Bill Tench's actor's name?
Yeah.
It's Holt McCallany, I think.
Yeah.
McCallany is what do you say?
Yeah, Holt McCallany.
McCallany, thank you.
Yeah, Holt McCallany. He is one of he's like a JT Walsh type of guy. When I see him come on screen, I'm like, oh, I know I'm getting quality work out of this. Like, he's a guy I look for. When I see him, I'm like, I know he's going to be good at a minimum. And he always is.
Awesome.
He never disappoints.
Well, I look forward to hearing you and your rewatch of Creepshow 2. So listeners, he's in there. Check him out. It's really bizarre.
Awesome.
Now, we've talked about Newton and Hicks dying. But what about Bishop? How did you guys feel about how they handled Bishop?
So this was interesting for me because I got two completely different impressions on Bishop with the two different cuts of the film. So in the theatrical cut, I get the impression that he's just another droid. And in the extended edition, I get the impression that he's a human being.
Explain that.
So because in the extended cut, his motivation and his approach to it is completely different as well, because in the extended cut they're like trying to film and he's like, no cameras, you're misunderstanding, no, this is not why we're here, and he's like trying to defuse the situation, where in the theatrical cut he just seems shady and scuzzy and I don't trust him. I don't know. Like, I get a completely different impression of this character between these two cuts of the film.
Oh, you're talking about the company man that's also played by Lance Henriksen that Bishop was modeled after. I think Tristan was asking about the actual character of Bishop.
Oh, the droid?
The actual android.
Oh, well,
that
he was ripped apart in the second movie. I don't know. He was in it because it's a neat callback to having him there, but I didn't expect him to survive or anything. He was ripped in half.
Right. But I think that maybe what you're getting at, Tristan, is this idea that I think that the Bishop scene was always one of my favorites, whether it was a theatrical or the work print or whatever, assembly cut, because he does speak to like the overall theme again of, how shocking is it to hear an android say, please shut me off, I'll never be top of the line again, even if they fix me. I don't want to continue. It really speaks to that whole hopelessness of a terminal situation. I also think that the puppet work that they did, like, I find it fascinating from a technical standpoint, because you look at what they did with Ian Holm in the first Alien when she reactivates him, and then you see this reactivated, and you're like, man, technology really came a long way in a decade. Wow, that was really something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was mainly what I was asking about. It's not so much like, oh my God, like, can you believe they killed him off? It was mainly just like, how do you feel about his last contribution to the franchise? Like, how do you feel?
Okay, excellent.
That
Sorry, I
kind of
misunderstood. Yeah. No, I think it was a great scene with him, having him there, and because the androids themselves are also a part of the Alien series. Like even in the next film, with Call, we get androids in all 4 of the films.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like even there's it's such a standard of the series itself in the future that this is built, that I think you kind of had to have at least one scene with him in there, even if he's just giving the information. And he's even reluctantly giving the information, which is interesting, that he doesn't really want to reveal the information that this was on the ship the whole time. This alien, this egg or whatever.
But that even in and of itself, because I know there were people that were bothered by that, but it actually made a lot of sense that the queen alien, just as a final FU, would have planted an egg to be like, yeah, you know what? Even if you take me out, you're going to die, and the egg's going to get there. It seems to make sense in terms of the alien queen's motivation. But jumping to the company man that's played by Lance Henriksen, I remember the biggest debate about that character was he a human or was he an android? Coming out of those first showings, people got into pitched arguments about whether he was, because of the fact that he gets hit and his ears hanging off.
Right.
And everybody's like, no, he's got to be an android. There's no way a person could live through that. And then you have people like me saying, like, no, there's red blood on there. Androids always bleed white. And then you had to get into, well, maybe the technology changed in the time since, and those sorts of quibbling arguments that nerds love to get into.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think about Lance Henriksen at the end of the film? Do you think that his character was a human or a synthetic?
I didn't care.
I think he's human, and I think that the assembly cut removes any doubt about that.
Yeah, I'm with John on that one. I think he's a human, and I think like when he busted his ear, it was just so gnarly, like with the red blood and everything like that. I mean, and also because I think people think that I don't know if there's any on-screen evidence about this, but people think that Alien 3 took place after Aliens only like a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
For some reason, I've got the impression that it's a couple hundred years.
So, like I don't know. I didn't get that impression. I'm just saying what like a lot of people have been saying online over the past couple of decades. They're saying like, oh, it takes place just not too long after. I could be wrong. I have no idea.
Yeah. I know that Alien Resurrection takes place an additional like couple hundred years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but and then there's like what is it, like an 80-year gap between 1 and 2?
Yes, it's 70.
She was floating for a long time.
I think it's specifically 79 years or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But I think that I think it makes sense for it to be a shorter window of time because of the fact that the company would have been very aware of the mission and would have, the reason they were able to respond so quickly was they were waiting for some sort of transmission about the Sulaco. And so when it comes through, they're like, oh, gosh, yes, it's got to be there. Go get them, sort of thing.
Okay. I guess it could have also been a short time later because the alien egg would have hatched. And then...
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if the egg hatched and then caused the crash because of like acid burning and stuff like that, then that also would indicate, because we don't know how long the gestation period of an egg is. I mean, like that's one of the things that's always wonky in all of the Alien movies is the gestation of the alien in people's chests and stuff like that, right? Because there doesn't seem to be a fixed standpoint as to how long these things take.
Whatever the plot tells them. Yeah.
Whatever the plot needs it to be. So, I think you're probably actually right now that I think about it. It probably is pretty quickly after Aliens that this takes place.
I want to ask about a very specific thing for you guys. In the assembly cut, no queen alien bursts out of her chest. But in the theatrical, it does. Where do you fall on preference with that? What do you think is a better, more effective final shot for Ripley?
Assembly cut.
Really?
No
Hands
queen
down.
busting out.
Hands down. No queen.
Really?
No, I think it looks stupid. I think it looks absolutely stupid in the theatrical cut. And like the way that she kind of like embraces it and like it just kind of pops out. And it looks silly to me. Like when I see that happen,
okay.
I chortle. I don't even chuckle. I chortle. and I like. I get what they're trying to do. Like I totally get what they're trying to do with the theatrical cut, with it bursting out. Like she's at peace with it. She's been involved with this species for so long, and so she's taking it out together. It's kind of like, you know, I was about to make a Harry Potter reference, but I don't want to anymore. It's kind of like I get it, but I like the elegance of the assembly cut. It's cleaner. It's no, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm going out before she can even come about. Like that's how much of an FU it is that I'm going out before you even get to pop your head out.
Well, there's even, you know, sort of that timing thing where it seems to be in there to artificially get this sense of she jumped at just the right time, but then you get into you know, we've seen this pop out of somebody before. It's not something where you're, you know, just chilling sort of thing.
You're not just like, I think I had a bad sandwich. No, you're writhing around in pain.
Yeah, I do think that it's a stronger choice for no queen alien to come bursting out because it gives Ripley complete control in that moment. It's a decision that is not spurred by anything that's happening. It is simply Ripley making her choice.
Yeah, I can go with that. I mean, I guess I think I've always preferred the alien coming out at the end, the queen coming out at the end, because they've been talking about it for so much, right? Mm-hmm. They've been talking about the queen, and to me, she still made the decision to make the jump. So it's always been a decision that she made herself. I mean, I never believed that they intended to take the alien out and save her. I think they would have like killed her in the end.
Oh yeah.
And so like it's part of that would have been part of her decision, right? So I don't know. I guess I've never really considered it. I guess I've always just preferred it. Yeah, it doesn't look the best because it's like this weird slow motion jittery effect that's going on as she's falling. But again, I've just boiled that down to like 90s filmmaking myself. But yeah.
They the reason why they added the queen busting out is because they saw Terminator 2 and they're like, crap, we gotta do something to change the ending to make it different.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
I also think that the way that the alien, the dog burster, ox burster, the alien who is chasing them through the whole movie, I still the fortitude of the individual aliens is also variable. And one of the things that I never have liked in either cut is the fact that they dump the molten lead on the alien and it still jumps out. And then the way they destroy it is they, you know, douse water on it. And it's one of those things where the thing can survive the vacuum of space. It can survive molten lead. It was enough of a victory to dump the molten lead and know the thing was dead.
Yeah.
I didn't need, and now it's exploding like glass everywhere. Like, it's just like, And on top of that, if it was jumping out of molten lead, and yes, I know everybody loves this. Well, it's just a silly sci-fi, whatever. Like, when it grabbed onto the chains, it's not like it would have been climbing around. It would have been, you know, because the lead would have been cooling, but it still would have been super hot, and it would have been like sticking to things and you know, instantly melting onto stuff and all of those things. That's, you know, it would also be cooling, but whatever.
I kind of agree with you because like when I remember watching it and when it jumped out, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Like, seriously, like that didn't kill it. But then when the water in the steam and then it shattered, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
there was a foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yes.
There was foreshadowing for this in the film.
You're right. There was.
When the after the fire and the water coming down and then the bucket like destroyed and it like you heard that hissing and it snapped and stuff like.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's always worked for me because of that element of foreshadowing in the film, right? So Chekhov's water.
Chekhov's bucket.
Chekhov's melted bucket. So.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't ruin it for me, but yeah, I wish it had just been dump the lead and let's move on to the next part. just as a question, because I have a friend of long standing who hates. Well, we've already discussed the Hicks and Newt thing, but he hates when everybody dies. Basically, he despises it. Now we do have a survivor, but it's a side character. But if you kill a hero in a movie, or you kill the people around the hero, it annoys him a great deal. Were there any people in this that you think should have been spared?
Charles Dance, as Clemens, the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he should have been spared, but I don't think he should have died that early. Like, I really liked him. I really liked Clemens, and I really liked Ripley and Clemens together. It was a rushed relationship, but it was believable. It was, I felt like it was two people truly having a connection out of nowhere, because I know it's easy to say lack of options, but you have two intelligent and warm, broken people who find each other, and they just immediately console each other. And I mean, that actor is amazing, and I felt like the character had enough mystery to him and enough of a backstory to justify actually having such a great actor. And so when he was killed, I was really shocked and I was really angry. But then again, that's probably what they wanted me to feel. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. That's the character that I wish would have made it till farther into the movie, because that killing of him just happened so quickly.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you guys. I mean, nobody's going to make it out of this one alive, obviously, just with the arc of the story. But I think it would have been better served to have had the alien discovered, have him try on that first attempt to capture the alien, and then they're having a quiet moment together. They think they're safe and sequestered somewhere, and then the alien pops in as just sort of a moment like, no, nowhere is safe. And that can sort of be a moment that spurs Ripley to be more convinced than ever, wow, there's no way out.
And that's where she goes to Dutton and says, okay, I need you to kill me.
Yep.
Yeah, this is I don't know. I love this movie. I think this movie's great. I agree that the extended assembly cut is definitely a lot better, and it flushes the story out more. The dragon subplot with this one guy, it's really truncated, and that's the storyline that's really truncated the most. Is this one character? And how he thinks it's a dragon. He lets the alien out, and the alien ends up killing him and stuff. Like, they really, really took a lot out of this, and I'm really glad that it's there in the extended cut, because I think it definitely makes the film much, much better.
I agree. I think that the whole attempt to catch the alien, like that whole first attempt, just feels so much. They basically won. And then the guy, like, it plays so much better in the assembly cut. So much better. And it has so much more weight to it, and so much more, intrigue. And also that sense of horror that really works in a suspense film like this, of the guy going to open the gate and, I'm going to offer myself to my newfound, and you're just sitting there the whole time. Come on. No, don't do this. Don't do this. I just think I think it's more interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think that character is really interesting as well, because like as a person who's a murderer, like one of the acting choices that he did that was like really fascinating to me was when Ripley came into the dining room first.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like uncomfortable that there's a woman in this situation, and like for me, like when he goes and he like puts his hand on his throat, and like what I read into that, like I read into how this person has just killed a bunch of women, right? Like and the method that he used was like choking them and whatnot, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like just a small acting choice. And then when he's going insane in the medical room, and he's talking about how like, oh, girls used to like me a lot and whatnot. Like, I don't know. Like, I think this character is really fascinating, and this guy really did a really good job of acting this role, that it's really good that we got so much more out of him in this extended version of the film.
Yeah, he seems much more human. Yeah.
And he went on to play Doctor Who.
Even
Did
better.
he? I don't watch Doctor Who, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Paul McGann.
which one?
It was I'm not that big into Doctor Who myself either, but he went on to, I think he was a part of the failed American reboot
Okay.
of Doctor Who. And then,
Which you can probably learn about on Time and Space here on the Nerd Party Network.
on the Nerd Party Network. If you are a Doctor Who fan, you need to check out Time and Space, a Doctor Who podcast at thenerdparty.com. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to tap out any more of my knowledge, but yeah, it's just something. He was in a failed American reboot, and I think they integrated him into a short or something like that into the actual BBC. So blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, sorry, go ahead, Tristan.
Oh, I was just gonna say I know we're rounding third here, and I have one more production story that I want to share that I think is that is very fascinating for people. Did you guys hear the tale about Sigourney Weaver's wig, her bald cap?
No.
Really? Okay, fantastic. So when they went to go do reshoots, so as you know, it's like she actually shaved her head for this role. She straight up shaved her head. And side note, one of the first times that she started working with David Fincher on the set, she was practically naked. She was half blind because of the bloody
The contact
lens. Thank you. And
All the gore in this movie, that lens messes me up the most.
right,
Yeah.
it's messed up. And like when they're wheeling her in, she's covered in grime. She's half naked. She has the lens in, and Fincher is dropping literal lice into her head. As they're filming it. It's crawling around in her head. It's going into her ears, and she's like, "Who is this guy? I hate this guy. This is gonna suck." And then they, like, I think the day after that, they filmed the autopsy scene, and Fincher talks her through the emotional beats. Like every beat that you see Sigourney Weaver hit, she is being coached word for word by Fincher, and that's when she gained respect for Fincher on like the second scene that they did together. And she was a huge champion for Fincher all throughout the film, and even afterwards, even after it came out, she defended him time and time again, saying Fox is the one who screwed up. Fincher's going to go far. Give him the resources. He's going to make great movies. So anyway, sorry. John, you were going to say something because I totally got sidetracked.
No. Do you think then, because, a first-time director comes out, has something that's a misstep, in a lot of people's opinions, doesn't make as much money as it wants to, essentially kills the franchise in a lot of ways. Do you think that Sigourney Weaver's championing of him kept his name around so that people didn't give up on him? Do you think that she did him a solid by that?
100%. If it wasn't for Sigourney Weaver and another producer whose name I can't remember right now, who championed for him after the movie was released, because Sigourney Weaver blamed the studio, and this one producer straight up blamed a specific manager at the studio.
Ouch.
And said, like, no, listen, David Fincher has talent. And like Sigourney Weaver went on record. It wasn't just like at Hollywood parties or behind the scenes. She did interviews with people, like publications, saying David Fincher has talent. Fox screwed up. If it wasn't for her, we would not be doing this podcast right now.
One other question about the lice. He was dropping actual lice. Are there any stories of crew members taking head lice home, and having like outbreaks and stuff like that?
Not that I've heard of.
As a parent, we know these things.
You want to know something? Those little SO, you have no idea. You have no idea. We haven't. It's almost like Voldemort. You mentioned Harry Potter earlier. It's like saying Voldemort in the house. You're not allowed even to say it. Those things are awful. They are terrible.
Yeah, we've had them in our house too. We get them. We've got them from the daycare and stuff. So.
Oh, they're so annoying. They're so annoying.
Laundry was working overdrive.
Well, speaking of hair, I'm going to go back to my original point because I got sidetracked. So she shaved her head, and that's why they put the lice on her, because they're like, we're going to shave your head anyway, so it's fine. And so they shaved her head, filmed the movie. David Fincher left, and they're like, we got to do reshoots. And by the time they did the reshoots, a year had gone by. And so Sigourney Weaver had hair, a year's worth of growth. And they're like, well, you're going to have to shave your head again. She's like, okay, well, if you make me shave my head again, look at my contract. You got to give me a bonus. Like, you have to give me X amount of dollars to shave my head again. And they're like, oh crap, we can't afford that. Oh man, what are we going to do? And so they figure it out. They're like, okay, well, let's put her in a bald cap. And they're like, we can't just put her in a bald cap. This has to be the bald cap to end all bald caps. How much is that going to cost? And they're like, slightly less than what we'd have to pay her to shave her head. They're like, go with the bald cap. Wow. And so in the reshoots, she's wearing a bald cap. When she's jumping and is holding the queen, she's in a bald cap.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so it's just it's such a great piece of technology. Like the person handmade it and stitched every single hair that came through by hand.
You know, that honestly, having a job like that is like in Casino when Robert De Niro goes up to the chef and he's like, I want the same number of blueberries in every single muffin. I can imagine that bald cap person just looking up and saying, do you have any idea how long this is going to take?
That's crazy. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about at this film? Like, I think I've talked about everything that I want to talk about.
I had no idea. Like, when we started this show, the podcast, House of Fincher, like, we said, like, listen, we're only going to go as long as we're interested. We're not going to be tied to 45 minutes. We're not going to be tied to an hour. If we only talk 30 minutes, we only talk 30 minutes. We're going well over an hour right now. And I feel like I could go for another 40 minutes. I really do. And I never feel that way when I podcast. I always feel like 45 and done. That's a sweet spot. But it's just, this movie has so much history, has so much tonality, and so much. The story is so rich. And I know that it went over the heads of a lot of people, or it pissed off a lot of people. And it's so tonally different in the franchise that it turned off a lot of people. But for me, this is such a rich movie to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think now that I have seen the assembly cut, it's the version I'll always watch, and I will rewatch it again in short order because I watched it like the day after watching the theatrical cut, and my reaction was so much more positive that, you know, while I'm logging it on Letterboxd, I was more restrained in my quote-unquote rating because I'm so afraid that seeing it right on the heels of all of the problems with the theatrical cut, I was like, I don't want to go overboard here, but I know that my opinion of the assembly cut version is going to grow more and more over time.
Yeah, I think so too. Awesome, right on. Well, why don't we get into a rating? We'll maybe give this a rating out of 5. You guys want to give it a rating out of 5?
Yes, out of 5 works.
Tristan, how many great big globs of lice would you give this? Out of 5?
Man, this is hard because I haven't rated this on Letterboxd on purpose. Like, I have not rated it because I have a heart. It's just, I like it. It's just a boom. I feel like any rating I give it is going to be a lie because I know that it has its issues. Like, I want to give it 4 stars because that's how much I like it. But I feel like if I was, I don't know, like if I was trying to be objective about the filmmaking and the structure, I know that it has its issues. So maybe I'd want to say like 3 or 3.5. But just because it's just, like I said earlier, I kept using the word rich. It's just so rich. It's so layered and it's so avant-garde compared to Aliens and Alien. I'm going to have to stick with 4, which is... Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it. That's how much I enjoy it. I have to give it 4 stars out of 5.
So, what would you give the theatrical cut?
Theatrical cut? Probably 3, but still with a like on Letterboxd.
Yeah. John?
Theatrical cut. This time I watched it was the exact same opinion I've had of it for however long it's been out, and it 2.5 for the theatrical cut. And then when I watched the assembly cut, it's at 3.5 right now.
3.5.
Like, it jumped a whole star. I was floored by how much better I thought it was, and that's why I'm so. But I think that the next time I watch it, it's probably going to inch up to a 4.
Yeah. So I give the theatrical cut 4 stars myself, and I do give the extended cut 5. Like, I do love this movie.
Wow.
And when I give movies ratings, like I very rarely take stars off for like technical issues on a film, like special effects and stuff like that. Like I never reduce my ratings on films because of that. And if there's like maybe one poor acting performance, like you and I, Tristan, have talked behind the scenes as well about Godfather 3, right? Like, and how much I love it. John, we've talked about that behind the scenes as well.
Sure have.
Like you had said that the only reason you take rating away from Godfather 3 is because of Sofia Coppola and her acting. And I'm like, for me, that's so one thing like that isn't enough to like reduce the rating of the film for me. So I love this movie, and I love the extended cut version as well. And I had mentioned to John, I'm like, we've had the extended version of this movie for longer than we didn't have the extended cut of this movie, right? So it was like 10 years between the theatrical cut and the extended cut. And we've had the extended cut for 16 or 17 years now, right? So, like, we've had this movie for a long time.
That's weird.
And
I
I don't...
old.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the hate this movie gets. I really don't understand it. I love it. I think it's great. But before we sign off, I'm going to open up one other small can of worms. Because we've got a very interesting situation with this movie that we're never going to have the opportunity again. And I will probably never actually have the opportunity to talk about this. This is the third movie in a franchise, but we also have a sequel to this. So I just kind of want to just ask you guys quickly of your initial impressions. What do you think of the sequel and where they went with this, with like taking the Ripley DNA and coming up with Alien Resurrection, where they've cloned Ripley from this? John, I'll start with you.
I have only seen Alien Resurrection once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
I thought it had some interesting ideas, but stumbled on the execution. But given the fact that I had such a better reaction to the assembly cut of Alien 3, I look forward to watching the director's cut of Alien Resurrection to see if it addresses.
Don't watch the director's cut. Watch the theatrical.
Really?
He said himself too. It's so that's the interesting thing about the Alien box set is that Cameron made the director's cut. They've got this assembly cut of 3, and they're both better. But honestly, both Ridley Scott and Jean-Pierre Jeunet are like, we only did this because they asked for it for the release. We're happy with the theatrical cut. And he even actually says in the intro, the theatrical cut is my director's cut. They just asked for this, so I changed a few little things.
Well, I can definitely say that I wasn't nuts about Alien Resurrection. And to borrow from your show, Franchise Fatigue, that Alien 3 I might have had issues with, but I still enjoyed it even when it was at 2.5 stars for the theatrical and all of that stuff. But after Alien Resurrection, that was one where I basically was of the opinion, just end it, guys. Just please walk away.
Tristan?
You know that scene in Alien Resurrection where Ripley, the fully grown Ripley, is going through the room with all of the clones, like the half-baked clones and everything like that, and she comes across
like
one. Yeah, exactly like Snoke. And she comes across one who's a little bit more fully formed, but it still is just god awful. And she says like, "Kill me, kill me," and then she takes a flamethrower to it, and then kills all of them. You remember that scene? That's what I would do to this movie.
Put it out of its misery.
I gotta rewatch it now. I've got to rewatch it now.
If this movie somehow gained human form, and the DVD case, the plastic would flap open and speak to me, "Kill me," I would let it suffer for a couple more minutes just to watch it suffer, and then I would burn it to the ground. That's what I would do to Alien Resurrection. And that's why I'm so thankful that Alien only is a trilogy.
What about you, Brandon? Where did you fall down with it?
I really like Alien Resurrection for what it does. It's so I rank them like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that's how I rank them, right? I think Alien Resurrection is the worst of the 4, but I mean, I still think it's a 4-star film. I don't like the end of it. So like with the weird alien, but I like what they did. I really think it's a creative approach, a creative way. I love sequels. I've got a podcast devoted to sequels. So when they can come up with what I think is a really creative and original way to make a sequel, I'm all in. And I think that's what they did there. I really like, I like the characters that are in it, and I like what they did with it a lot. I think it's great. So it's not the best. So,
John, I just want to say I'm really interested in doing this podcast with you and just you moving forward. I think this is it's going to be a fun journey with just the two of us.
Let me pitch my newest theory that Predator 2 is actually Alien 4.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Brendan. No, I know a lot of people who like Resurrection more than 3 just because it tries to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get it. I mean, they're wrong, but I get it. Like they like it more than 3 just because it's actiony, it's fun. It's got Ripley playing basketball. I mean, she's shooting hoops. How can that go wrong? It is such an overcorrection to the nihilism that was in 3 that it's laughable. And the fact that Joss Whedon wrote it is even funnier to me.
Weird, yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. John, where can people find you when you're not amplifying your rating of a classic masterpiece from 1992?
I would say that you can find me online as Kessel Junkie, KESSELJUNKIE. I am active on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Instagram on occasion. And you can also find me right here on the Nerd Party Network, co-hosting a Star Wars podcast called Aggressive Negotiations, where we delve into some really weird territory some weeks. Even weirder than Alien Resurrection sometimes.
Tristan, where can people find you when you're not coming up with your own concoctions to wake people up when they come out of hypersleep?
You can find me all over the Twitterverse under the Insane Robin. And you can find me on the network as well at thenerdparty.com. You can check out my archive shows of Punch It, Writing in Star Trek, as well as Nerd Nuptial. Brandon, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. I'm over on Trek FM with a show called Line, which is all about Star Trek Picard. I am on the Fandom Podcast Network with a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, where, much like this show, I go through all of Hitch's films one at a time in chronological order. And I also have a show on the United Federation of Podcast Network with my friend Zach. We go over movies, remakes, and sequels. It's called Franchise Fatigue. We have yet to cover the Alien movies, but I'm sure we will get there at some point. So thank you so much for listening to House of Fincher. Next time, we will be talking about Seven. And don't forget, his wife's head's in the box.
Spoilers.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.